Hello, folks. This is Rebecca Adams, and I have Becky Vermeer with me again tonight.
Hello. Did
Yes,
you hear
we
me?
heard you. Yes, we heard you.
I was a little more muted. I watched the last one we recorded, and something about the high decibel, I went away. So hello.
Perfect. Perfect. I heard you, Mrs. Doubtfire. I love it.
Well, so I'm wondering, did you move?
Yeah, I moved from that room to this room.
You're in a completely new environment. It looks like you're living your best life in a log cabin.
Well, that's the whole intent behind all of this. That's just the way I
Ah,
decorate. Everything looks like you're outside, or if you're inside, you're in a log cabin. And it's a bit of a stretch because I have white walls and I'm not allowed to paint them. And that's okay. That's okay. So yeah, this is this is actually a blanket.
very cool.
I sewed a casing on the back of it,
Mhm.
and I had a friend that found me a pretty straight branch, and I'm using that for my curtain rod, and that's what it's hanging up there with. So yeah,
Super cool.
I just do really unusual things like that. But
It looks like you're sitting in your armchair next to a fireplace.
it was
With
not
your
the
your
fireplace.
cabin walls backdrop. You've got a tree in the room. You totally
Uh-huh.
look like you're reading by the fire.
Everything except the fire. And I have always wanted a wingback chair, and I got this used for 50 bucks. And I love it. I love to come in here and just sit. And this is my little miniature library. So I've got these two
Nice.
mammoth bookcases on either side of me. And I got the two of them together for $10. Thank you, Tammy.
Wow.
Yes. And
Nice find.
they really were. And they have built-in lights. So you can, yeah. Oh, I have
Super
lots of
cool.
fun with them. I've got antlers over here in this one, and I just have all sorts of fun decorating. So yeah, I thought, you know what, you guys can change your filters, your backgrounds, and you know what, I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to sit somewhere different. So
Time to change things up.
yep. So here I am
That's all right. I like it.
talking to you from the library.
I like it. How are you tonight?
I'm doing very well. I have been cold, freezing cold all day, and I'm not a cold-blooded person. So
Same. Me too.
I don't know
I
what it
don't know
is.
why.
We're
It's
hours
not
away
that
from each
cold,
other.
really. Yeah. But it's not that cold, honestly, outside.
No, it really, it really isn't. It got up to a decent temperature. I'm going to turn you up to make sure I can hear you tonight. Um, no, it got up to a very decent temperature if I was in the sunshine. My
Oh
little dog
yeah.
was running around outside and having a blast, taking all sorts of sun baths and trying to get a tan and everything else. And I stayed in the shade and worked on my computer, and I froze out there.
Yeah.
Oh
That
well.
time of year, here comes the fall.
Yep. And I love it.
Me too.
I love this.
Me too.
So I am in a sweatshirt tonight. I wanted to be warm today.
Yeah. I'm
So,
taking my chances with short sleeves still, so we'll see what happens.
woo, you make me cold looking at you. So what's your shirt that you have on? It's got a ribbon on there.
My shirt is a crisis center shirt. So let me hide my chin. So that ribbon, that's our logo.
Love it.
Yes. And so then I'm also wearing to the side of that my purple ribbon like you're wearing
I don't know if you
in
can see
honor
it.
of Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Mhm.
October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so we're in full swing right now.
We are, and why? Why would we want to make that Domestic Violence Awareness Month? What's the reason behind that?
Because people need to know. So when we talk about Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we talk about a trifold purpose. And that trifold purpose is to honor those we have lost as a result of domestic violence. And it's also to celebrate the courage and strength of survival, which is worth celebrating. But then the third part is it's community awareness.
Yep.
Let the community know. Once a year, we set this month aside. Let the community know domestic violence is a very real problem. It happens in epidemic proportions all across our nation, well, all across our world, to be honest with you. And so, the goal of acknowledging it is hopefully to get the community involved, that together we take a stand against domestic violence.
How does that look for a community?
It could look like a lot of things. It could look like I live in an apartment complex and there's screaming and yelling going on in the apartment next to me, maybe the sounds of a physical struggle. And instead of doing nothing, I call the police. Or instead of doing nothing, I boldly go knock on the door to maybe potentially stop the attack that's going on. Or I'm a business and the local domestic violence shelter comes in with a box of purple ribbons and says, hey, could you put these in your store so that when everybody comes in, they can take a purple ribbon? Or public service announcements. Or one thing that we did last week at the crisis centers, we had our 27th annual candlelight vigil, where we gather the entire community together. We have people that share their stories of abuse that turns into triumph, that turns into survival, that turns into thriving. And then as a community, we also speak out against the evils of domestic violence and brainstorm ways that we can help people in that situation. It's tying a purple ribbon around a tree, putting a purple light bulb in your outside light, your porch light, so it glows purple all night long, dyeing the water red or purple. If you have a fountain or a gathering place where there's some type of water, all kinds of different things. It's completely focused on bringing awareness to the fact that domestic violence is alive and well, unfortunately, and still happening in the world that we live in.
Very true.
So
Those are
it looks
some
like
good
a lot of
ideas.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, those are some really good ideas.
Something super exciting just happened in the state of Missouri.
What?
Our governor, Governor Parsons, signed and fully executed that the third Saturday in October will now be known as Domestic Violence Awareness Day in our state.
Fantastic.
So we have a day set aside. It will be the 3rd October from now on. Sorry, the 3rd Saturday in October from now on is Domestic Violence Awareness Day.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so we're kind of brainstorming some ideas what we're going to do. We had our candlelight vigil, like I said last week, but this is new. And so we haven't had a lot of time to try to put together something, but we're definitely going to do something to introduce to our area that this is Domestic Violence Awareness Day. How exciting is that?
That is so awesome.
Yes.
Yay, Governor Parsons. Love your courage.
Yes, so I'm happy about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Maybe Branson Landing would allow you to turn their fountains purple.
Well, that's one of the questions I'm going to ask. There's funny that you say that because we've talked about asking the landing, and then Branson has a new aquarium, and there's a pool out in front of the aquarium, and then Branson also has a Titanic museum,
Oh, yeah.
and there's a pool in front of the Titanic museum. So we're going to see if we can get at least one, if maybe not all three, to turn their water purple for that day.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I know. Yeah. So hopefully we can. And then we've talked about doing some things, several things, nothing set in stone, anywhere from a purple ribbon scavenger hunt to a balloon release to we're not sure yet. We don't have a lot of time to plan it, so it can't be anything on too grand of a scale this time. But next year it will be.
Oh, how exciting.
No.
Yes.
Go Missouri. Whoop.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. And I so missed not being able to go to the candlelight vigil. I just, when I lived down there, I couldn't always go because of my work schedule, but oh my goodness, those candlelight vigils meant so much to me in my healing and just reflection, over the past year of what it had been like and what it had been like since the time I came until that present time. And
Right.
um, I was there. I just wasn't there.
We had a really incredible turnout this year. We had a great turnout. We had a really good program. It went off flawlessly. Like I couldn't have asked for a better vigil this year. It was awesome. So my goal was to have 50 people in attendance. We had 67,
Yes.
which is super fantastic. And
Yes.
I mean, it just went off without a hitch. It was just a really wonderful evening. We had a local judge there, a local prosecutor there, some great, some great support. We had an alderwoman, I should say, there that read the proclamation because the mayor had a commitment. So the alderwoman came and read the mayoral proclamation for us. So yeah, we had a really good program this year.
That's fantastic.
A lot of survivors were there. And so there's a part of the program where we have a speak out where we give people the opportunity just to talk about how they feel about domestic violence or what they wish they knew or somebody else knew, etc. Our speak out was incredible. A lot of participation in that from a lot of survivors that were there. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
it was a good evening.
Oh, how awesome. So tell us about, I know we haven't talked about this for about a year, but I don't, you can't even see my pin. I have weird lighting tonight, but um, I'm wearing the same thing you are, pin. Why do we wear this?
It's the trifold purpose. I mean, earlier what I told you now, my ribbon and so does yours has two colors on it.
Mhm.
We are a dual program, and so we provide services to victims of domestic violence and also victims of sexual violence. And so the purple shows our support for victims of domestic violence, and the teal shows our support for survivors of sexual violence. But in the same way that you see awareness ribbons for so many things, purple is the color of a domestic violence ribbon. And so again, it's that education to bring acknowledgement to let people know this is going on and I'm taking a stand against it by wearing the ribbon that I wear.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, this ribbon means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Really
Me too.
does. So you have something on your desk, don't you?
I
More
have a
than
lot
one.
of things on my desk.
Is
You're
there
gonna have to
anything?
be more specific.
Did you bring anything for show and tell?
I did.
Yes. What did you
My
bring?
new show and tell item is from my sock collection.
Love it.
I brought a great pair of socks tonight. Let's see if you can see them. There's a girl sitting under a tree reading a book about squirrels. Apparently, there's a squirrel in the book, and there's a squirrel coming down the tree and says to the girl, "Sup, nerd."
Oh, I love it. Has Teddy seen that squirrel on there yet? On that
I'm
sock?
sure Teddy likes squirrels a lot.
Does he like him or does he want to eat him?
Yes,
Okay.
this is one of my favorite pairs of socks.
I love that.
It just makes me laugh every time I wear them. I think they're great socks.
They are great socks. You find the best ones.
Now, do you have a pair of earrings to show us tonight?
I do. Now, I want to know what you think this looks like to you. Okay, so I don't have good lighting in here.
What does that look like to me? Would you believe I'm drawing a blank and I'm not sure why I'm drawing a blank?
Are you ever in the kitchen?
I'm in the kitchen. It looks like a whisk.
Yes, it does. So I call these my egg beater earrings. I have a pair in silver and I have a pair in gold. So I'm wearing the silver tonight. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I love these. I think I got them at one of our local big name stores that I'm not going to name, that you and I don't go to very often. You know?
It
And
sounds like stall cart.
yes, yes, he does actually. And it also sounds, when you go in there, it sounds like screaming children that should be down for a nap.
And dollar sounds, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Lots of that. Yes, lots of that.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah, that's the one.
I'm familiar.
Well, I am still, excuse me, I was outside. The asthma is reminding me. So I am still in the process of editing the last episode we recorded, which was our interview with Leah,
Mhm.
Leah Denham. And so I've had some questions that I thought about. Oh, I should have asked that. I should have asked something else. Um, Leah talked about owning her own mistakes.
Mhm.
What exactly, can you expound on that a little bit, but then also tell our viewers why that makes a difference in us as we own our own mistakes, and what does it do in that other person or people who hear us own our own mistakes and admit that we know that we did wrong and why we did wrong.
I mean, the main word that pops to my mind when I hear you ask that question is validation. For other people specifically,
Mhm,
if I'm doing something and I'm not owning it, I'm oblivious to it, or I'm hiding behind it, or everything outside of me is responsible for it, I'm not responsible for it, I hurt people. But if I'm willing to say, hey, I made a mistake, me taking ownership of my mistake almost leads the path to atonement, because then it takes all the responsibility off the other person where it doesn't belong.
mhm,
It comes on me, and then it can change the other person's attitude towards me by saying, okay, thank you for owning that. Now I can help you with that, or I can forgive you for that, or I can partner with you on your healing journey. But if
mhm,
you turn me into the bad guy and I'm responsible for your stuff, one, that's not a label I want to take.
right.
And so it creates friction or animosity between two people.
Mhm,
In her particular situation, it was 100% necessary for her to have the ability to own her stuff,
mhm,
especially when it came to her relationship with her children, with her family, with her friends. She needed to own her stuff.
mhm,
Knowing what I know about that situation, they're the people that care about her, her network of support. They were trying to encourage changes to take place in her life that she wasn't willing to make at the time. But
mhm,
in addition to not being willing to make the changes, she was blaming them for it. And so there's unnecessary guilt that falls on in the shoulders that it doesn't need to fall on.
yeah,
But then there's that frustration that can turn into anger at the person for not realizing you're the one making these choices and you can stop making these choices.
mhm,
And so we get in that situation. You know, you've heard the expression tough love. We get in that situation of you're not willing to own your stuff. You're not willing to take responsibility for your choices. And now I'm not either,
mhm,
because I didn't make those choices and I didn't do those things. And so, you know, that's kind of where that tough love line comes of, okay, I'm done now.
mhm,
When you want to make a change, when you want to own your stuff, I'll be here to love you. I'll be here to support you. I'll be here to walk that journey with you, but you're going to have to be the catalyst that makes that change.
mhm,
And so, now we're not talking about being a victim of domestic violence. I'm not talking about that. I'm
right.
talking about the choices that we make, that we actually do have the power to make those choices. Sometimes we make choices that are detrimental to the people around us. And
Mhm,
because we're feeling bad about us, or we feel guilty, or we feel shame, we want to make them responsible for it. And all that does is cause more destruction.
mhm,
And so, how healing was it for her when she got to the place where she could say, I did that?
mhm,
And those words, I did that, can then lead to, now what are we going to do to fix it?
yeah.
And we can fix it. You did it, yes, but we can fix it. So let's partner together then and make that change. And so I think her willingness to own her stuff was a huge catalyst for growth and change, not only for herself, but
Mhm.
for her relationships as well.
it's so damaging to hide our part of what we've done, to hide behind, denial, I didn't do that, or whatever it would be.
Mhm.
It's harmful for everybody involved.
Mhm.
There's
And
nobody.
the other thing about it too, that denial place keeps you the victim.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And if you're trying to heal and you're trying to grow and change and make different, make better choices in your life or whatever, you can't stay in that victim role. And
Mm-mm.
so when you turn to your support system and you have that sense of denial and almost blame in that direction, you can't move forward. But you're the victim because they're the ones doing it. To pull my tough love expression back out, well, now my mom won't have anything to do with me, so I'm the victim. And so
Mhm.
it almost gives permission to continue on that cycle if you keep yourself in that role. I'm just going to have to keep making bad choices because now nobody cares about me.
Mhm.
But the day that I say, no, wait, I'm making bad choices and I want to stop, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I
Mhm.
mean, and if you don't think it does, let's think about it in common everyday terms. You ever tried to lose weight? Food, if you keep putting food in your mouth, it's not the food's fault that you're eating it,
Mm-mm.
right?
Right.
But if you keep saying, I just have no control, I'm the victim to whatever I'm doing, and I'm in this vicious cycle. But the day I say, no, I'm going to make a change, and
Mm.
maybe my change is instead of drinking 7 Cokes today, I'm only going to drink 4. I made a change. And
Yes.
so I'm starting to take the power back over that thing that's controlling me.
Mhm.
Or have you ever, if you had a potty mouth, have you ever decided to stop cussing? You're victim to it when it has that power over you. So
Mm.
what do? You start changing your vocabulary. And once you do, then you take the power back. Now you're not the victim to it anymore. You're in control and you can change the way that you talk. Or if you have anger issues, I'm going to start practicing healthy conflict resolution and I'm not going to scream and yell and break things. Like, you don't have to be a drug abuser or a victim of domestic violence or whatever. We all have those kind of changes that we need to make in our lives.
Mhm.
I'm going to stop yelling at my kids. Okay, well, how do you do that? First of all, you have to own the fact that you yell at your kids.
Yeah.
And then you have to educate yourself on how do I replace those behaviors with new behaviors.
Mhm.
But you can't until you own your stuff.
And
Until we own our stuff, we will never make changes in our lives.
we won't. And I can remember when I had to own the fact that I did yell at my kids, and I yelled too much, and it was just yelling, yelling, yelling. That was so humbling to admit that. That was hard.
Mhm. But there's also freedom in saying, I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
I finally recognize that I have a problem, but I don't know how to fix it.
Mhm.
And so that little piece of vulnerability right there is what will also facilitate the change because in admitting I don't know how to fix it encourages those around us who love and support us to say, okay, what can we do? Like, I'll help you. So
Mhm.
I'm no longer the bad guy now. Now I'm your champion. I'm going to help you and we're going to fix this and we're going to make change. And so it repairs relationships is what it does. And so I think in her particular story what she shared with us, I believe that her owning her stuff is what made that change. It fixed her relationships. Now
Mhm.
I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you they're 100% fixed because I don't live in her world. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I hear her say, this is better and that's better. So she's actively facilitating change because she took accountability for the stuff that was creating the divide.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so much power in that.
Oh my goodness. And until you walk through it, it doesn't matter what that area of your life is. Until you walk through it, you don't know what that power is because it's incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that?
I think that's all I got. Good question. I
Yeah.
liked that one.
Well, I thought, you know what? I think we need to go over that a little bit more, because there's so much, like you said, there's so much power in that. Um,
I do have a thought. Let me say this real quick.
Yes.
I do want to revisit relationships where domestic violence takes place.
Hmm.
A person can be a victim of domestic violence and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing to own in that scenario. What I have always told people when they come to for help, the only thing that you can claim responsibility for is that you believe somebody who said they loved you. And you don't owe anybody an apology for that.
Mm-mm.
Because everybody that I've ever met in my life has believed somebody who said they loved them.
Hmm.
Now, the person that forfeited that was sort of looking for, there's a word that's perfect right here and I can't think of it. It'll come to me. It's not violated, but muddied. There's a word. Anyway, the person who didn't live up to their end of the bargain, they're the ones that are responsible for that. And so you'll never hear me say that somebody who falls victim to an abuser, it's the victim's fault. I hear victims all the time say, I picked the wrong person. No, you didn't. They picked you. I'm responsible for it. No, you're not. They're responsible for that.
Mhm.
I'm responsible for the fact that my children are in a home where abuse takes place. No, you're not. You're not the abuser. And
Right.
so there's a lot of guilt and shame that falls on victims of domestic violence. Completely different scenario than all the other things we talk about where we can take ownership of the choices that we make. I will never, 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 never say that a victim of domestic violence is responsible for that. Never.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I clarified that.
And I appreciate that. And by the way, this last week, I was able to use that portion of knowledge that I've gotten from doing these podcasts with you. And I'm not going to give any any vital information or anything, but there was a young lady who was um, definitely being stalked and controlled by her boyfriend, and the family was so worried, and they're still worried, over the situation. But I was able to share those very things that you just shared because I've heard you
Awesome.
say them before. Yes. And it really put the family member that I was talking to, it helped put them at ease and just help kind of see things the way they really are instead of like the way maybe society would want us to
Yeah.
think they are.
Yeah.
So
This is why you and I constantly use the expression escape.
yes,
If
yes.
you're in an abusive relationship, you don't just wake up tomorrow morning and be like, you know what, I'm done with this and I'm going to walk away. You literally have to escape and you literally have to create an escape plan to do
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
There are so many people I know who are victims of domestic violence who want to be free from their abuser.
Hmm.
It's challenging to translate the want to into the able to.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people, a lot of victims, even when they do remove themselves from the abuser is not done abusing, and the abuser will still stalk and harass and follow and threaten and all of those things. So we have to be super careful not to be victim blaming in those scenarios.
Yeah.
And
Very.
victims in those homes, they're in survival mode all of the time, and so the choices they make, the things they do, the decisions they're faced with, they're made to survive.
Hmm.
When you don't have that constant threat of, am I going to survive another day or not? You would make a different choice. I
Absolutely.
mean, that's just the reality of it.
Absolutely.
So we do have to be very careful.
Yeah, very definitely.
Well, like in the story that she shared with us, part of her testimony of falling into some drug use and some things like that, it was necessary for her healing, for her to own the fact that she made that choice.
Yeah.
And it was necessary for her reconciliation with her family and her children to hear her say that she made that choice.
Hmm.
Because then she could come around and say, and now I'm making the choice not to do that anymore. And they
Right.
could get behind that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big difference.
There is a big, big difference. Absolutely. So we're almost at the end of one podcast, by the way.
Interesting.
I know, right? And my mind, can either freeze up or go 10,000 directions when we're at this place. And sometimes I get to the point that I really don't know how to express what I'm thinking or feeling on the inside. Is there anything else? And I asked you this once, but do you have any other thoughts on what that entails to own your own stuff and not try to hide it, not try to deny it, not try to walk away from it, not try to put your hand in that person's face and say you don't want to hear it?
Mhm. It's powerful. I think I just thought of a funny story, and I'm going to go ahead and share it with you. Because there's a certain technique that some people use called deflection. And deflection doesn't help anybody.
No.
Deflecting from the reality of what's going on is a defense mechanism, but it's not healthy. And so you made me think of a funny story that I'm going to share with you briefly. Me and two of my employees went to a conference one year. Three of us were in the room. Way back when, the early days of the crisis center, low budget, three of us had to share a room. So we're in the room. We're not really making any noise. We're actually all trying to go to sleep. And there's a knock on the door. And so one of the people, one of my employees answered the door, and the person said, "I'm getting complaints that there's a lot of noise going on in this room," which was super funny because we were literally all trying to go to sleep. And instead of owning it and saying, or instead of standing up for us and saying, no, we're all going to bed, my employee that answered the door said, "Well, they've got a dog and their dog is barking." And I've thought about that story so many times over the years because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, "Let me stand up for myself and be assertive," no, you're inaccurate. That's not what's happening. I'm going to deflect the situation away from me, and I'm going to turn the heat on this other person. And so this other person's going to get in trouble, so to
Yeah.
speak. And it doesn't help anybody.
No.
So the person that knocked on the door is now frustrated because there's not an admission of guilt. There's not an acknowledgement of anything that needs to be changed. There's just an accusation. And so this person has completely wasted their time.
Yeah.
And so I think about that and the power of just being honest and the respect that I have for people who will just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many times in the course of a day, in the course of a week, and a month, and a year, that people at the crisis center aren't honest. Sometimes it's my employees, to be honest with you. Sometimes something bad went down and the employee wants to play the blame game or deflect onto this other person. When if they would just say, "Yes, you're right, I did that and I made a mistake," I can work with that. I did that, I made a mistake. Okay, now it's a teaching opportunity. This is why it was a mistake. This is why you shouldn't ever do that again. This is now the steps that you need to take to correct that. So the next time it happens, you'll know how to handle it. And now we can all walk away from it.
Yeah.
But the whole, "I didn't do that," or "That's their person's fault," or "I don't know what you're talking about," I can't change anything.
Right.
And so it's still a problem.
Mm-hmm.
No one who has ever worked for me, who has ever owned their stuff, gets in trouble. I made a mistake. Thank you. I appreciate the fact that you said that. Now let's fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people all the time in training, there's nothing that you're going to do that we can't fix. We'll be able to fix it, but you have to be honest and tell me what it was.
Mm-hmm.
A person's not honest, they hide behind it, they deflect, they play the blame game, they throw it in another direction. You can't fix that. And so
No.
all you're doing in those scenarios is you're perpetuating the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it will grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. The power of saying, "I did that," enormous.
Yeah.
But unless somebody's willing to say that, we can't change anything.
True.
I mean, use it in parenting.
Mhm.
When you say to your kid, "Did you break that plate?" "Well, I didn't do that." Or, "Well, dad was doing it too." You know what I mean? Like, let's deflect onto dad. Dad's the one that showed me how to do that. No, you broke the plate.
Right?
And so now that I know you broke the plate, let's fix it. How do we make
Mhm.
sure that we don't break any more plates? But you
Mhm.
can't when the dog came running through the house and it hit me on the leg and then I tripped over the dog and now it's the dog's fault. Well, I can't change the dog.
Right.
So I mean, those are the simple little things we even do in parenting.
And that
But
it creates such frustration. There was a lot of deflection
mhm,
and, hiding and denying in my family of origin and in the family with my marriage, and it was it's crazy making behavior,
it is. Mhm.
especially if you saw that plate being broken and you saw what that person did with that plate to cause it to be broken. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if dad showed them how to do it or dad
Right.
was a bad example, it doesn't matter. They chose to pick it up and do whatever it was they did with that plate. And it's just it was constant, Becky, and it literally somebody complimented me when I went to get my hair trimmed the other day, and they said, "Oh, I love the color of your hair." And I got distracted, so I didn't get to answer her, but, my standard answer is kids and ex-husbands frost hair for free. You know, this is where I got it from, was that crazy behavior.
You can't get that kind of color in a box.
You can't. This is the real deal.
Mhm.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I haven't had a dream about those kind of crazy making days lately. I used to get those a lot with the
Yeah.
kids just constantly picking at each other and deflecting and not owning up and blah, 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 you know. And I would have those dreams where it was just constant and never, ever, ever stopped
Yeah.
because it's the way it was for the most part.
Right.
It was insane. How my kids ever made it to adulthood, I don't know. It just now, along with my cooking or lack of ability in the kitchen. Yeah, it's truly amazing to me. And I have 2 very responsible sons that I can, you know, point to and say, "Look at them, 'em, aren't they awesome men?"
That's a good thing though.
It is, it really is. Yeah, in spite of everything, they have turned out to be wonderful young men.
Yeah. That's awesome.
They're about to be middle-aged men, but don't tell them I said that.
Ooh, I heard that.
Oh,
Oh.
you didn't hear that. There's nothing to hear.
Sorry, I'm owning it. I heard it.
Move along, folks, there's nothing to see here.
Nope, you have to own your behavior. Set a good example. You said
All right, I said it.
it. You know what else about that? There's actually freedom in owning your behavior.
Yes, there is.
There really is. I mean, is it easy to do all the time? No.
Mhm,
Do any one of us ever want to step up and be like, yeah, I goofed up? I purposefully did that horrible thing?
right.
No. But
Mhm,
there's freedom in it somehow because did you ever lie to your parents when you were a kid? And you knew eventually they were going to find out, but the torture that you lived through waiting because they're going to find out, the
mhm,
torture was awful. And
mhm.
though, even though when you finally admitted it and you knew you're going to be in trouble, wasn't it like, good, I
Yes,
can stop carrying that around now?
yes,
I mean, we learned that as little kids, that lesson.
yeah.
But somehow as we grow up, we forget that, how freeing it is just to be honest.
It's like it releases the guilt, like
Mhm.
releasing water from a dam or something. It just yeah, it's gone.
Mhm.
Mhm,
Well, the other thing is nobody's perfect. I mean, we're all fallible people. We walk around and we make mistakes all day, every day.
mhm.
And so we might as well just own it.
Yeah.
Because if we're trying to keep this facade of I do everything right, guess what? You don't.
Uh-uh. No.
Even me. You know, I like to walk around and say I do everything right. I don't. I know it's a terrible thing.
Becky. You just popped my bubble. Did you hear that big loud bang?
I'm fallible.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we got to bring your sister on because I have to verify this that you are fallible.
She will agree with me.
Will she give us a sample?
Probably. Yeah, on second thought, let's not bring her on.
Oh no, I need to reach out to her. She's a friend of mine on Facebook, you know.
I know she is.
Yeah,
I know
I'll just reach out to her and say, "Hey, would you be willing to come on and talk to us about your fallible sister?"
You know what she does all the time?
What?
Especially like in settings, she always comes to the candlelight vigil and she always supports the work of the Crisis Center. But
Yeah.
she always teases me at some point afterwards. All these people just think you're wonderful. Oh yes, my wonderful sister. Like she likes to do that. But even her husband, she really gets on her kick with her husband because if we go somewhere and her husband introduces me to some new person, this is what she says. This isn't accurate, but this is my sister's depiction of how this goes down. This is Debbie's sister. She's the director of the Crisis Center. Oh yeah, and that's Debbie, my wife. That's what she said.
Oh no.
So she's always like, blah blah blah. Becky's wonderful. Like she.
Funny.
I know. I know.
So we just need to take you off of your pedestal. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm not on a pedestal. Please, please don't put me on one. You know why? Every
Why?
time you put somebody on a pedestal, when they fall off, man, it hurts. I don't want to be on a pedestal. Mm-mm.
True, very true.
Leave me low on the ground, right where I belong. I can't live up to those expectations.
Right, right. Who can?
Nobody.
No, nobody can. That's too funny. Well, thank
Just
you.
one of the ways she likes to tease me.
I love it. I love it. I remember the first time I saw her at a candlelight vigil, and I said, "Oh, you are her twin sister, aren't you?" She said, "Yes, I am." She was so sweet about it. I kind
Now
of get
she
the
really, sorry.
I kind of get the idea she wants to stay in the background too.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
She really likes it now because anytime I introduce her to new people now, I always introduce her as my older twin.
How many minutes older is she?
She's not.
Are you the older one? Oh, I bet she loves that.
I did it last week and she just rolled her eyes. She always says that. She just lets it go.
How many minutes difference is there?
16. I'm 16 minutes older than her.
So you're the old lady, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, you two are so funny. Too bad I can't follow you around with a secret hidden camera and just watch the two of you interact.
One time we used to do a sisters weekend where me and my sister and then my mom and her two sisters, we used to go once a year and go down to Eureka Springs and we'd spend the weekend and just have a good old time. But my sister and I used to call my aunts, no, my mom and her two sisters, the hens, because we were the young chicks and they were the hens. And so this one particular time we went to this huge flea market, and I mean, antique shop. I mean, and it was fantastic, like all kinds of great things to see. But the hens were taking a really long time, and so my sister and I would get a couple of booths ahead of them, and then we would interact with the booth. So that when the hens got to where we were sitting on chairs reading books or whatever else. And so yeah, we would just giggle through the entire store. And on this one particular place, we got to the end where there was a like a bell on a counter.
Oh no.
And so I went and hid behind the counter. We waited for the hens, and I was hiding behind the counter. And when the hens walked up, my sister rang the bell, and I jumped up and I said, "Empty Arms Motel." And then all of us giggled. Well, this couple that had been in the store that we were oblivious to came around the corner and they said, "You're the ones that are doing all of the laughing." They said, "We want to follow you around because you guys are having way too much fun."
I can picture that.
It was a good time.
We gotta figure out some way to get a hidden camera when you two go out together.
One place there was a like a hall tree where you hang hats and stuff. And so we were sitting next to it with like our arms out with a hat on our head. You know, we would just put ourselves in the scene because the hens were taking too long.
So funny.
Good times. Good times.
That humor is so important.
Yes. It's vital.
It is. It really is. That's part of what helps keep you balanced, isn't it?
Yes.
Because you've got a heavy job.
Yeah.
With dark, heavy stuff all around you. Yeah.
Yep. So I never pass up an opportunity to laugh.
I love it. You are your father's daughter.
100%.
That's,
Proudly.
yeah,
Proudly 100%.
I love it. Well, Becky, thank you again for another episode of just awesome input and sprinkled with humor as only you can do. We appreciate you. Folks, remember to like, subscribe, share. You know how to do all of this. And we appreciate you watching. We really do. Remember that no matter where you are in the process, you are always free to soar.